just so that you're aware, I'm going to record myself for people that aren't here, or if you want to watch a portion of this again because maybe it goes too fast or something like that. I have a screen here that's going to basically show the gist of what I'm talking about, and a side screen here that should look like yours. So every step along the way, I'll be pretty much mirroring what you're doing. The hardest part about a session like this is some of you will be 2 steps ahead and some of you will be 2 steps behind. It doesn't really matter. You just need to be proficient at the basics before you leave. How do you get to your files? How do you get to the internet? How do you print? How do you use the keyboard and that kind of stuff? And I guarantee you will be before you leave. Okay, the other bells and whistles, all that this can accomplish, you won't know it all in the next 50 minutes, and that's okay. If you haven't done so already, and I think you're all good so far as you've turned your computer on, the buttons at the top are the power and the volume button. There aren't any other buttons on your machine. Okay. Some of you have already tried attaching and detaching your keyboard. I'm just going to show you that when you detach your keyboard, it's going to probably, unless you tell it not to ask you, do you want to switch your computer to tablet mode? So your computer is a tablet and a laptop at the same time. Tablet mode, if I say yes, you can do whatever you want with it, is basically going to make it so that the most common programs you put in your live tiles, I'm speaking gibberish to some of you right now, I'll explain it later. These types of programs would be very easy to click with a finger and not having a keyboard. Tablet mode basically means they're trying to create your computer so that you could leave your keyboard somewhere and just sit on your lap and click where you want it to go. If I put my keyboard back on it, it's asking me, do I want to exit tablet mode? Most of you are going to keep your computer looking like a laptop screen, most of the time something like this. Okay. Right now your password is change me, unless you've changed that to something else. At the very end, if we have time, you have the ability to have 3 levels of security. One is the basic password. This password is for your computer. It doesn't change unless you change it. The second level is a PIN. It can be a 4-digit number, a 5-digit number. It just has to be a series of numbers, whatever you choose with it. And then the third layer of security is actually that you can have it, when you turn on your machine, just look at your face and recognize you. A lot of people ask, well, what happens if I shave? Or what happens if I'm not wearing my glasses? It actually looks not only at your face, but into your eyes, your retinas, technically. And it can recognize who you are. Now, I'm going to be pretty honest with it. If you're worried that that's too creepy or other things like that, just think about, do you want to type in your password every time? It's up to you. If somebody else is using your computer, like Matt said, his daughter might use it here and there. If she doesn't have facial recognition, she can still know either the password or the PIN if Matt so decides. So you'll have 3 ways to log in. It'll try the face first, and then it'll say, oh, we can't recognize it. Which of the other ways do you want to get in by? Okay. Let's do it this way. Basics. On your machine, your computer is designed that when you shut your, I don't know if you'd call this the cover or the keyboard, whatever you call shutting this, when you shut this, your machine is designed to go to sleep. Okay? You don't have to tell it that. Or actually, it's designed to hibernate, I should say. That's the proper word. If you have a lot of programs going on at the same time when you close your keyboard, it won't instantly hibernate because every program has to basically hibernate. So if Grace is running 8 programs and they're all high-powered things, when she closes her keyboard, it might take 2 minutes for it to hibernate. If Bob is just looking at the internet and closing his keyboard, it'll probably hibernate within 2 seconds. Okay? When you open it back up, it's just the power button and you're in good shape. At the bottom left part of your screen, you see this little Windows icon. I'm going to go back to this a lot of times. By touching that Windows icon on the bottom left, it opens up a bunch of busyness, some of which I'm going to explain over a series of things in a bunch of slides. But just to talk about power, 2 up from where I just clicked, if you clicked on power, that should be some of the familiar options that you've had in previous Windows, like I want to force my computer to sleep, I want to force my computer to be shut down, or I want to force my computer to restart. Right now, if you tell your machine to sleep, it actually is going to hibernate because this machine actually has problems at times with sleeping. So we basically said, when anybody says tell it to sleep, make it actually hibernate so that you don't have problems. Okay? Another really common question that some people have asked is, should I shut it down or should I just close my screen? And that's a really fair question. I think it depends on when you're using it next. For example, if I shut my screen, go to bed, bring it back the next day and it's not plugged in, I'm going to lose somewhere between 2 and 10% of my power, depending on what's running, depending on how many hours. It's not something like I went to bed, I had 80%, I closed my screen, in the morning I have 10%. You're talking about just hibernating your machine will make it use a little bit of space so that when you turn it back on, everything's ready to go again. So I think that should answer most of those types of questions. This you don't have to do. If you want to try it with me, you can, but your machine is designed that when you flip it sideways, it's going to rotate. Your screen is going to rotate whatever direction you flip it, kind of like an iPad or other device that it will know based off of gravity and stuff like that which way is up. The reason I tell you that is if you're planning on teaching or demonstrating something with your machine, you should be aware that if you gyrate with your arms, kind of like I do at times, you're not going to notice at times that it's rotating. So to be aware of that, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail with it right now, but let's just have you do it. I'm going to take my finger and just swipe from the right. So I just took my finger on the right side of the screen and swiped it from the right, and it should open something called the Action Center. You don't have to know what every last one of those things means, but if you want to get to stuff like, what wireless am I connected to? How do I get to my settings? How do I do all of those? That's there. The reason I'm talking about it right now is here's also where you can tell your computer, I want it to act like a tablet or not. If I had it rotated and I wanted to lock it rotated, I can rotate lock. So if maybe Matt Pearson is diagramming something and using his pen, and he wants it to stay upright, if you lock it into a certain rotation, when you twist your screen, it's not going to twist. So I had to do that. This is actually a demo machine. On my machine, when I teach, I had to lock it because my kids like, whoa, what, whoa. It was a bad experience for them to rotate. Okay, just click somewhere in the middle if you haven't already. You should have a screen that's pretty much nothing on it. The next thing I want to show you is just how do you get to all your programs. So there's probably 4 ways you can do it, and you're going to leave with whatever way works best for you. I'm going to try to not say too much about what I think is better or worse because what I think is probably different than you. Anyways, if you click on the Windows icon, bottom left, and it opens up all this busyness. Right above the Windows icon, it says All Apps. Apps are just programs on your computer. So if you click on All Apps, if I click on All Apps with it, so here and right above, here are all the programs. And you can use your finger or you can use your mouse. It doesn't really matter. Here are all the programs that are on your computer. So Microsoft Word and your camera and the phone and Skype and other things that are automatically on there. If you're used to an older version of Windows, you're probably used to clicking on that bottom left area and finding your program there. That's okay. I think that's probably the 4th best way to get to your programs because it takes 3 clicks. But if you're familiar with it and it works for you, then it works for you. What I'd like you to know is that you basically can put your programs 4 places. One of them is it's automatically here. The second place is some of you like to have a bunch of icons just in your desktop, like here are the main things I go to. You can take any of these and just drag them into this area. If that's where you want to click them, go for it. I know people that have 50 things on this desktop, and for them that's great. For me, I don't like that. I know some people that like to have 4 or 5 programs and they're all down on this taskbar. And then I know some people that like to have it just in this main area because they want to use their finger like a tablet. Once again, there's really no wrong answer with it, but I just want to show you how to do some of that. The program that we're going to play with is the camera that's on your machine. So if you're not still on the screen with all apps, I'd like you to find the app that says camera, and just don't click anything yet. By clicking on it, it'll open it up, but I want you to move it somewhere just so that you can see it in more than one spot. So if you right-click on a trackpad as the bottom right corner. If you're used to using a mouse, you can still use a mouse in your office and stuff like that. But anyways, when I right-clicked, it said pin to start. You don't have to click on that unless you want to. Pin to start means it's going to show up as one of these big icons. Right now you can see like Twitter and all that kind of stuff. What I'd like you to click on is go down to where it says more. And for you, it should be something like this, where I'd like you to pin it to your taskbar. And what you should notice is that your camera just went to the bottom taskbar right here. If you don't like that, I'll show you how to get rid of that in just a sec. But I want you to use your camera once before you leave. So if I click somewhere else, I have nothing open. I just have a couple programs that are on the bottom. And I'm going to open up the camera. And it should look as if like you're holding a cell phone. All apps. So if you have a camera going with it, it's just like a regular camera. I'm not going to belittle too much of your intelligence, but right now it's a camera. If you want to take a picture, you just click on the camera. I'm going to pick on you, Grace. Sorry, I'm not going to do anything with it. But notice that when I'm highlighting Grace's face, it knows to focus on that point. And that picture is taken automatically. What you should also know, and I think a lot of you that have cell phones know this already, at the very top, there's this picture of a camera with supposed to look like a 180. You have a front and a rear camera. So it isn't that I'm expecting Dean Balges taking this computer to a Greek class and taking a selfie with his class. But what I do think you should know is it has a front and a rear camera, because if you're doing something like a Skype or a Google Hangout with somebody, at times it's going to guess the camera and it's going to guess wrong. And you should know that you have two cameras on your machine and not just one. Okay? In addition, I think some of you heard me talk about the resolution is very good. I don't have the perfect number of pixels. I'll say it's 8 to 10 rear, 3 to 6 front. If you want the specs, look it up. But right next to that picture icon on the right-hand side is a video one. At any time that you want to take your computer, so I just took this, and instead of clicking on the picture, I clicked on the video. Now if I click on the video, it's going to take live video. There's been more times than I expected where I'm in a class and a student is demonstrating a project, or I wanted them to see something where I'll take a video and at the same time open up something else and take notes on them. Or just take a video, put it somewhere, and leave it. So just like I'm videoing here, you could do the same thing with your computer at a good resolution.
Question.
Go ahead.
That drag and click camera, was that like a copy and paste because it still stayed in the alphabetical list but now appeared on the taskbar?
Yes. The all apps that you're talking about stays alphabetical. When you move it to other places, like let's say you moved it as an icon in here, or if you move it down here, it doesn't disappear from the other spot.
So it's in both places?
It can be in as many places as you want. Okay. The next one I want to show you is the search bar. I think some of you, this is brand new. Many of you, what I'm going to show you is brand new, but I think this is much better than you'd expect. At the bottom part of your screen, it says search the web and Windows. It feels like this is just like a Google search, but I think it's a lot more. So I just clicked in that area, and I like you to just type a couple letters like Word or W-O or W-O-R, and it's going to know to look for certain things that begin with those letters. So when I want to open up Word, I don't pin it anywhere, I just type a couple letters. Now this isn't my machine, but it also works that if I wanted to look up something like my linear algebra folder, I just start typing in L-I-N, and it knows to look for my folders. So for some of you, the Google organization of your desktop is confusing and not a good idea. For others of you, it makes it so you don't have to put 1,000 icons everywhere because you can just type in a few letters. So for me, I wasn't expecting that I was going to like that as much as I do. If I'm looking for Excel, I just type in EX and it knows the program. It knows the apps, it knows the settings, it knows where on the web I might be looking, and it would look for files if I actually had files on this computer, which I don't. So I showed you, you can click on the Windows part and go to All Apps. You can take any of those apps and pin them to the taskbar, which is on the bottom. If there's something down here that you don't like, you can always right-click it and unpin it, and it's gone. Pinning is just Windows' way of saying, like, put it there. Okay. Lastly, the live tiles or the start menu. When you click on the Windows icon on the bottom left, it opens up a bunch of things that are by default on your Microsoft computer, many of which are probably never going to be used. So let's practice getting rid of a thing or two. Like you have some Xbox stuff on there and you have some whatever it might be. If there's something on your machine in that screen that you want to get rid of, just like with before, you just take whatever you're looking to get rid of and right-click and unpin it from the start, and it won't be there. And every one of those icons you can drag and drop to a different spot. So for example, let's just say you use Skype all the time. Whoops. Or I wanted to take this Surface icon. I can move any of these higher, lower, left, or right. And then lastly, if you start using this, you could also, I can also take any of those, and I'm just right-clicking, and I can resize them. So I'll go up here and show it, but so this is a medium-sized icon. This is a wide icon. Some of them give you the ability to go even larger. And then some of them, small would be like a fourth of this picture of John Mayer. Okay, if you're wondering, why in the world would I ever do that? It really comes down to, do you anticipate that you're going to hit the Windows button and click to your programs like this? Or, once again, if you take your computer and put it in tablet mode, however you set up those tiles are going to be how they show up. So for example, if I'm on my couch looking at the internet, I don't always want to have my keyboard. I just want easy places to click and go to. For some of you, what I just said doesn't apply, and that's okay. I'm not leaving you thinking you have to do it this way, but I wanted to show you 4 big ways to get to different things. Next, I said you need to know some things about the internet. On your computer, on the bottom right-hand corner, most of you are very, very familiar with. This is the Wi-Fi icon that kind of shows you what you're connected to. I'd like you to just take your mouse and just hover over it. When you hover over it, it probably says MLC Guest, right? What you should know is that there's been some really nice work that's happened behind the scenes in the last 2 weeks. First of all, in the MLC Guest network, on any device, you should not have to meet Reggie and re-log in every 7 days anymore. However, that's not the good news, Kathy Worster, because that's pretty good news. The better news is that we now also have an MLC academic network that works. And I'll talk about that before I have you connect to it. You won't have to log and re-log into that. It's going to be secure, so students can't, if they wanted to, look and figure you out through the guest network. It's not as secure a connection. I haven't heard of anybody getting hacked that way, but it's possible. In the academic network, it's a more secure network. In addition to it, when you're connected to that academic network, you're going to be able to print wirelessly without being hard docked in your office. So if Randy wants to print something in the athletic office from here in 10 minutes, I'll show you how. Or maybe it'll be 20 minutes, but you get the idea. In addition to that, it's just going to have a bunch of other things that you're going to be able to do with it. Here's how you get there. So right now you're on the guest network. To change that, you just take your mouse and click on where it says, or that wireless icon. And when you click on that, and give it a little bit of time. It's going to show you the different connections that you have. The one that I'd like you to click on is the MLC Academic, WLAN. And when you click on it, it's going to ask you, do you want to connect automatically? Make sure it stays checked and connect. And then it's going to ask you for a username and password. And your username is your Portal, Moodle, Novell password, whatever you do to get into the portal. So it's, for me, it's KarloveJD without the @ stuff.
And you said that's the same password that we currently are using on the portal?
On the portal, not what you put on that machine. Yep. Once you do it once, you're good. So when you come back to school the next day, it's not going to tell you like, oh, you've dropped, you need to type in your password again. You'll be in good shape. Okay? And then you don't have to, then you can just click somewhere else and you already were connected to the internet, you still are connected to the internet. Okay. The only thing that you should know about that is when you get to the point where you have to reset your portal password, remember you just put in your portal password, so that will have to change. So what I'm going to say now isn't going to mean as much until it actually happens to you, but let's just say 2 weeks from now, Dan Balge's portal password has to change. Your computer is going to not know what to do because you have automatically set up a wrong password. The way to make it remedied is just disconnect from the academic and then reconnect back in. Did what I say make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. So if you get to a point where you reset your password, we actually had Lance Hartzell where it was happening during the session and then you could get to some places and not others. So when you change your portal password, you'll have to at one time disconnect and reconnect until you're the same password that's there. The encouragement is use this instead of the guest network for reasons we've already talked about. Here's the other part of today that I think is really, really awesome. Right now, if you want to access your MLC files, your only option is Dock in your office. Right-click that Novell icon thing on the bottom right corner, log in, and get to the iDrive. For some of you, that's more of a hassle than it's worth, so you've never saved there. For some of you, you don't use it because you can't use the files at home or when you go on the road. Well, that's going to change in the next 5 minutes. So now what's been set up, and I'll say kudos to Network Services, Bob Martins, and other people, you're going to be able to access all of your MLC files everywhere you have the internet on every device. In addition, you're going to have a file set up before you leave in your regular folder structure where you can just drag files right into that file anywhere you have the internet. You don't even have to have the MLC academic network. You'll just be able to use it. This is probably the most challenging part to get set up, but when you're done with it, I think you'll like it. I said I think because some of you maybe it isn't enough to sell you on it. But in order to make the magic happen, you need to open up the internet. And on your computer right now, the only browser you have is the little E that's on the bottom part of your screen. Kathy, I'll get there eventually. The program that's there is Microsoft Edge. It has some advantages. I'm not going to say what's good or bad, but just click on the little E that's on the bottom part of your screen. Your screen looks a little bit different than mine. So once again, I'll go again. The E is at the bottom part of your screen. There's other ways to get there. When it says Welcome to Microsoft Edge, you don't have to go through 1, 2, or 3. You just need to click at the top of your screen where it says Microsoft.whatever and enter this website, filer.mlc/wells.edu. You technically don't need the HTTP or anything. Just type that website in. If you didn't know this about the internet already, when you type in a website, caps don't matter, except if it's a shortened URL, but that's a different story. Okay, when you're there, it's going to ask you for your Novell password and name. So same thing, type in your Moodle, Portal, Novell password. I promise you won't have to do this. I shouldn't say promise. I strongly think you won't have to do this again if it works well the first time. Okay. When you do this, your screen is going to be more blank than mine, because right now you just sent a support ticket to network services, and it knows you just asked for all your files. So for some of you, it's going to take 2 minutes. To others of you, it's going to take 5. So I'm going to stall, do something else. You don't see what I can see, but you will in just a minute. Just to show you how this works, in a few minutes, the WinData file that you see there is all of my, this doesn't work real well if I'm trying to walk and do 2 things. If I try to open this WinData file, this is the old iDrive. These are all of my files, everything that I've stored at MLC, and this is just opening it up through a browser. And that's kind of cool. I don't think that's as good as it's going to get yet. The other thing that you have access to, and I think you can do this right now, is if you click on Net Folders, if you're one of those people that use the G drive, the shared drive, this is the G drive put together there as well. If you open up the Groups folder, you're going to see some things like, can you see these things yet? Okay. Like your advising faculty, graphic arts, and other stuff like that. Okay. So eventually you're going to see all of it. To make the magic happen, what you need to do once with me is go over to the upper right part of your screen and click on your name or the down arrow. It doesn't really matter. So click on your name in the upper right-hand corner, and then I'd like you to go to where it says Download Filer Desktop App. Yep. So when you get to this spot, the place that you need to click is this Windows x64 client, because it's a 64-bit system, not a 286, 386, 46. Not Apple or anything like this. So once again, I'm clicking right in this spot. What it's going to open up on the bottom of your screen is a program that's going to try to install Filer. After a minute or 12 seconds, you're going to have to click on Run. And then a bunch of times you're going to have to say next, yes, I accept, next, yes. So Keith Wessel noted that when they give you this big thing to read, it actually now just says I accept the terms of agreement. It didn't say I read. I read and accept the terms because, as Keith said, it's not forcing you to sin. And then install it. It's going to ask you, is this a folder you want to put it in? Yes. Just keep going. Yes. Next. Yes. This one. Right. Okay.
It's about 5 minutes right now.
You're good.
I'm caught up.
When you first get into that, you're not going to see your files because they're it's the first time you've logged in, so it's got to synchronize with the server, so it's going to take a minute or 2. Bob Martins is in the office right now pushing them down to you. Speed it up.
Yep. So then once you get to that part where you've installed it, it's going to take you to what's your username and password. I would say put your username and password in there. It's also going to ask you, do you want to remember your password? You do. And the last thing is what's the server URL. Once again, you have to tell it that this is the place it should go to. So you have to type in filer.mlc/wells.edu one more time.
This process you only have to do once you've got it set up. You'll never have to remember this again.
Did I click on the wrong one?
I think so.
Okay.
That's what I was looking at before we were doing it. Okay. Keep going. Okay. So when you've gotten through that step, what you've basically done is you've created an easy link to your files that I'm going to make even easier in just a moment. Hey. And I'm actually just going to stall for about 1 more minute because if you don't have the files, the next thing I'm going to show you is going to be frustrating with it. So I don't have to reinstall or do stuff with it. Just to review one more time, even though you just installed something, you can at any time at the top of the screen type in filer.mlc/wells.edu. And it should open up your screen that at times, in a minute or two, will have your files. Man, at that screen down here, after that, type in the filer.mlc/wells.
Server URL.
Yep, so username and password, this is your portal one, right? Yep. And then down here, type in filer.mlc/wells.edu.
Which I've done before.
Yep. Yeah, this is just telling you, like, you're creating a quick link to that so that you don't have to go to that.
What do I click after that? Log in?
Yep.
Okay, so HTTP.
Actually, I think it was, I had an S in there too.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. What did it not like?
My server URL.
MLC/wells.edu. Hey, thank you for those that were waiting with it. What I'd like you to do is just shut down everything. So if you got through those steps with me, then you could take this and just shut down that internet browser. And now I want to give you a basic quick access to those files. So the last place that we're going to go with this part is at the bottom part of your screen is there's this little icon that takes you to your files, the File Explorer. Just click on that.
I found out if you click on your little up arrow there, the file icon is that one. Right there you are.
Okay. Okay, I'm just going to set you up the first time. Jim just showed me another way to get there. I'll get there later because I think you need to set up my way first and then you'll be able to save differently. Anyways, I'm talking to myself. When you click on the File Explorer, this is a little bit different than the windows you might be using. It's going to guess what are the most frequent folders you go to. It's going to look at the files that you've used on here. If you're one of those that have saved something but you forgot where it's saved, it's going to eventually put the last 20 things you've worked on here. It's going to pick this automatically. If I took this part of my screen, if I took this scroll menu on the side here, I can go through all of my different folders like I could in the past. What you should notice, though, is that on the upper left-hand corner, it already has guessed these are the things you want at the top. Like, you're going to go to downloads or documents or pictures the most. What I want you to have up there as well is your access to your MLC drive. And here's how you do it. So on the left-hand side of your screen, you probably have something that says this PC. Just click on that. And I'm just one time or two times, it doesn't really matter. It opens up a bunch of places that are on this PC. The place you need to double click now is the C drive where it says Windows C drive, which opens up another place to go to. To get to your filer, it's in the users folder. And then you have a series of users, or just yourself, admin, and public, or something like that. You need to double click on the folder that's you. And you should, inside there, have one that has a little red icon that says Filer, right? So that's going to be kind of your path to where you want to go. For most of you, I don't think you want Filer. I think you want actually into your WinData folder. So we're going to go one step farther. And I'd like you to double-click Filer, because this will save you time eventually in the future. And even though it doesn't say WinData, I think you would guess correctly. My Files is the iDrive. Net folders is the G drive. You could put both of these pinned to quick access if you want, but for just something I think most of you will use, if you double click My Files, this folder, WinData, is the one that you want pinned. So when I just single clicked it once, and now I'm going to right click and pin it to quick access. Then we have to get you to that spot. Because you haven't done all the other stuff that we did. We have to get you into Filer and all that from 10 minutes, from a few minutes ago. So what you just did is you've just pinned WinData to the top. Just to prove that there's some power with this, I'd like you to shut it down. Because I want you to be able to get into your files a couple different ways. So you shut it down, your screen is pretty much blank. If you click on that folder on the bottom, not only is it probably a frequent folder, but on the upper left, WinData is now there. If you click on WinData, I think most of you, double click on it, you should see your folders. You should have access to...
You said folder on the bottom, James, I missed it.
Sorry, right next to the E. And then WinData will take you to your files. And this is all the stuff that you've saved on your computer. Okay? Okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with what you just did there. Even though you pinned it somewhere else, I'm going to force you to pin it to the top because when you save, I think you're going to like it. So it's there. Hey, the reason why I think for some of you that's something that you might want to have is because when you're saving, by pinning it to quick access, every time you're looking to save, that folder is going to be at the top. If you're in Word, the folder's at the top. If you're in Smart Notebook, the folder's at the top. If you're in PowerPoint, the folder's at the top. If you're in whatever it might be, it'll be at the top. Let's go to, so a couple basics. So you know how to get to the internet. You hypothetically know how to get to your folders. You basically still have to learn how to print, and I'll show you that. Right now, if you look at the bottom right part of your screen, is your clock correct? Okay, if it is, then you can ignore me for the next minute and a half. If it's not correct, you only have to fix it once and it will be fine. The clock on the bottom right, just click on it one time. It's now showing you the wrong time, maybe even the wrong date. That's okay. In order to change that, you need to tell your computer to think about it again. What I'm clicking on is where it says date and time settings in blue. So should I just click on this clock down? Hey, if you click on date and time settings, it opens up this. Even if it says it's looking for it automatically, you actually will have to take your sliders and just turn them off and then turn them both back on. And maybe do it twice. And by telling it to look for it again, your clock will be correct.
Slide them off and then hit the show.
And then turn them back to on.
You can say slide off.
Oh, sorry, click on date and time settings. I just took both of these, turn them off, turn them back on. You won't have to do this again because now it's correct. Okay, so now if you were following me through the steps, you either had a clock that was correct before or now it is correct. Okay. Two more things. One is your pen. You have this magnetic pen that's next to your computer or connected to your computer. It's more than just a piece of plastic. It's basically a Bluetooth device, as just like a cell phone, basically. It is not cheap. I'll go to the bottom. It's your responsibility. Somewhere between $50 and $70. It is right now connected or paired to your device. So if Mark Paustian were to swap with Grace, it wouldn't work on her computer. If you were to lose it or buy a new one or buy a second one or something like this, I put instructions here for how you could reconnect it and a link to do it, but you shouldn't have to on your machine. Okay? Your pen can do a bunch of different things, and I'm just going to kind of demo like this. There's a bunch of programs that you can write with your pen on. So at 9 o'clock, I'm going to demo some of that stuff. Not saying you have to stay. Some of you are going to go listen to Jeff show, and that's fine. But anyways, if I want to write on Microsoft Word, I can write on Word. If I want to write on PowerPoint, I can write on PowerPoint. If I want to write on Smart Notebook, I can write on Smart Notebook, OneNote, whatever it might be. PDF files. The backside is an eraser for some programs. Some of you said I don't like Edge. The only thing I do like about Edge is you can write on the internet and save it somewhere else. I'm not convinced I'm going to use Edge because of that, but just it's possible. Okay, the last thing is the button at the top is clickable. If you click on it, it's going to open something up. So if you're freaking out that your computer's opening up stuff, don't worry. By default, 1 click does something, 2 clicks does something else, and holding it does a third thing. Okay, just to show you what basically is happening with your computer, if you want to follow with me, I'll show you how to set up how to get to the setup with your pen, but I'm not going to set it up for you because you have to decide. For me, I do 1 click takes me to Google Chrome, 2 clicks takes a screenshot of what's there, and holding it does some third thing. I don't even remember what it was. Some people have asked, like, can I make this just advance my PowerPoints? Sure, you can make it so that you're clicking it as a space bar. I have a link for that there as well. But anyways, in order to change it, I just clicked on the Windows icon on the bottom left, and the app that I need to get to is Surface. If you don't see Surface, you could just type in the word Surface in that search area. This is basically their advertisement for Surface. What you want is on the left-hand side, the second option is the pen. If you can't keep up with what I'm doing, just click on the links eventually. It'll lead you through it. This link goes slower through everything I just said. But anyways, you can change how sensitive your pen is going to be. And you can change what 1 click, 2 clicks, and holding does. So basically you can have it be the things by default or have it open up different applications. So I'm just going to stereotype Kathy and say she wants to open Finale with 2 clicks. Great, just have it open up that program when you do 2 clicks. You get the idea. Okay, you do have to know how to find the application. If you want more help with that, it's not going to be right now because that's not as big a ticket item. Any questions about your pen? Matt?
How do we make a website 1 click, 2 clicks?
You change it from the default to a desktop application, and then you have to know what desktop application. So do you want Word? Do you want Chrome?
I want Google Chrome.
Which you'd have to install before you can.
Got it.
Okay? I'm getting there. Your device already has a orange, tan, brown, I'm not sure what color it is, micro SD card that's in the back of it. If you look underneath the kickstand, there is a card that's in there. It's half as big as your hard drive. Your hard drive is probably 128 gig. The card, I think, is 64. What's happening with your card is everything that you save on your computer that's not in the MLC drive is going to back up on that card. If you're wise with technology and you want to change it and just use the card for something else, only Jim Rotary will be angry behind the scenes, but he won't be able, you get the idea. So right now, if you looked at your drives, you're going to like, hey, there's a D drive, and I don't see anything connected. Well, you have a card with more storage that's going to back up automatically the things that you did, like the picture you took. I think it's designed to back it up once a day. So not only do you have MLC, you have another way to back up the things that you're looking for. Here's a question that Matt kind of indirectly brought up. You probably have other programs that you're pondering having on your computer. You have administrative rights to your computer, you can put them on. For example, I love Google Chrome. I love the fact that all my ads are blocked. I love the fact that when I open it up, I have everything logged in the way that I want it. I can shut it down the way that I want it. Every device is the same. That's enough of an advertisement. But if you want Chrome, just type in Chrome in Edge, and it'll be the first thing you can do to install. Some of you might be a person that likes to use the smartboard with Smart Notebook in your room. That's not on your machine automatically, because if you don't use it, it does use up a bunch of space and memory behind the scenes. Okay? If you want to install it, I sent you this Google Slides presentation in an email. Just click on this, and you want the free version, which is 11.4. You don't even need this key. If it asks you for one, here's an MLC key that'll get you it for free. But what I want you to do with me is, let's just open up Word. And there's a bunch of ways to do it. I'm going to go the way I kind of demoed before. Just type in WOR or Word in that bottom area and just open up Microsoft Word. Your computer's probably going to ask you, do you want to install updates? Just for the sake of time, I would go with ask me later and then click OK or accept whatever it was. Just like you use Word or other programs before, just open up a blank document or whatever kind you want, type something if you'd like, but I want you to be able to save something to your MLC drive before you leave. So I have a made-up document. To save it, there's a bunch of ways. You can either click on the Save icon on the upper left or go to File, Save. It doesn't really matter. It's the same thing. If you haven't used Word or Microsoft in a long time, the top option is their cloud. You don't have a OneDrive until you connect it up if you want. Most of the things you're going to save are going to be on this PC. That seems kind of backwards because you will use this PC to get to MLCs if you want. But by clicking on this PC, it's going to guess you want to save it to documents. That's not your WinData documents. That's this computer's documents. And that's a really big thing. So if you want to save it to your MLC, you actually have to go to the top. And it will know that this is where you want to go. But the reason I wanted you to pin WinData to the top is every time you save, that's pinned to the top. So I would say make sure you know how to save, open up WinData, and get it saved in a folder that you want. So I'm doing WinData, saving it in my file that I have called home, and I could just save it wherever I want in there. So from any application, you can save it directly to your MLC drive if you'd like. It doesn't mean you can't go other routes. It doesn't mean you can't use Google Drive. It doesn't mean you couldn't put it on your hard drive, but you should know how to save it there in one click. Big question with that? Okay. Last thing is printing. Right now, the only way you can print is you're docked in your office, and then you have access to printers. Now you'll be able to dock in your office and print, or do it wirelessly anywhere you're at MLC. Kathy can't go home, connect to the internet, and print to an MLC printer. You have to be in the MLC wireless network.
That's what I printed from home, or printed something here and I printed at home.
Yeah, you can do that. If you've connected, I can too, because you just have it set up, yeah, whatever. In order to do that, I'd like you to just open up whatever internet browser you have. So I just clicked on the little E that's on the bottom. And then the last place that we're going to go, either your search bar is at the very top or in the kind of the middle where I'm at. The last website you need is this iPrint. You don't need the HTTP. It's okay if you just type iprint.mlc/wells.edu. The attention part doesn't matter. Hey, it looks like you have to install something on your computer. It's already installed for you. You just need to go, when you're at this screen, in the middle column, you need to choose a printer you want on it. Before you go too far with it, by default, your computer already has the 2 printers and network services and the basement of Old Main, the big one that you can send to. The rest of them are on this list. So once again, I'm just clicking on the red part that's in the middle column, it opens up this list that's almost overwhelming. These are all the printers that are at MLC. You need to scroll and find the printer that you want. If you're not sure what it's called, it's probably installed on your old machine. Look at the name. Matt?
Can we, click on
Yeah.
multiple?
Yes. Yep. So for example, if I wanted to click on the one that's outside of my office, I would click on link. You want to click on the blue hyperlink that's on the left for whatever printer you want. And when it asks you, did you mean to switch apps, you say yes. And just keep saying yes and accept. And you can add whatever printers you think you'll use. They should also be set up that if you could do things like collating and two-sided and hole punching and all that, it should already have it. If a printer doesn't work the way it used to work, please send in a support ticket because it probably is a problem that everybody has. When it asks you, do you want to install it now? Yes. If it asks you, do you want to install the print client? Yes. But basically, when you go to print, you're going to have more options based off of how many printers you install on your machine. It might take a minute or two or three for it to get there. Matt?
I don't see my office printer on here.
What's
If you
your...
have a personal one, I don't think yours is network.
Okay. So we'll have to,
Either network it or... So this question was...
Is it connected directly to your
Computer.
station?
correct.
So to answer Matt's question indirectly, if you have other printers, like at home, or not even the way that Grace talked about, just it's hardwired somewhere, you can still hardwire it to this machine and print like you normally print. It's a full-powered Microsoft device. You can do it the same way. I do the same thing as Grace does. I have a printer at home that's wireless that I have access to everywhere I go.
How would I do that?
I connect it through Google. That's more than able for me to be able to explain it in the next 2 minutes. But so your printers will be there. If you have any issues with it, just ask. Last thing I'm just going to remind you is you have access when you're connected via the MLC Academic Network. If you were connected via guest, you wouldn't. If you're hardwired in your office, which leads me to the last thing, when you're hardwired to your office, it still will look for the printers that you've installed. But you don't have to technically be on wireless when you're wired. Over the next few weeks or months, up to you, you have to decide when you're going to switch your office over from the old to the new. There's no rush. If you want it to happen on Tuesday, I think it can happen. If you want to wait till middle of July because you want to go here, there, and everywhere before that happens, and you want to keep your computer as long as possible, that's fine. But anyways, in your office, you're going to have all of your things connected into this little black box. Your keyboard, your mouse, your second screen, all of those things will be there. This will connect to the side of your device just like the power cord. Mark Paushin took his out already. The power cord that you're given is just power. It magnetically connects to the side of the machine, and it can go either front side up or wrong side up. I don't know which one is which. But in your office, it'll work the exact same way, except this will bring not just power, it'll bring all your peripherals with you. External speakers or whatever you have set up in your office will go with it. The other part of today is that you should know that over the summer, the classrooms are going to change. There is no, I don't know the timetable for what room when, but obviously the encouragement is check your room sometime throughout the summer and practice. Because in your classroom, there will be a universal dock. That's one cord into your machine that you'll be able to project onto the screen, hardwired or other means, depending on what's in your room already. I can't make guarantees about other than this will connect into the side of your machine, how every classroom's going to be set up. I think, Grace, you have to go over there. But sometime through summer, you need to check that. Once again, Jim Rachi will be sending out an email with time slots for when your office is going to change. If you thought that had to happen today because today was the day that you lose your machine, no, today definitely is not the day. Hey,
They'll be starting next week in the afternoons throughout June and July.
and there might be reasons why you would wait or not. If you didn't know this already, MLC has a knowledge base of a bunch of techie things, some of which you probably wanted to know before. But I put some links onto this presentation. The MLC knowledge base has a bunch of things about how does printing work, and how does that work, and how does the other thing work. And Bob Martin's put together some things specific about your device. So maybe you get home tomorrow, and everything I said is just lost. Well, most of it is in a series of demos and videos and other stuff like that. If you want to set up additional Microsoft things, you would need a Microsoft account to do that, or don't use a Microsoft account, but just tell it, I'm just using whatever account you'd like. If that is all gibberish, then you'll have to kind of look it up yourself or ask me some other questions, but I don't think everybody falls in that camp. But for example, I like my search bar not only has the programs, but it also has my appointments, my calendars. I can tell it to how much time does it take for this, that, or the other. There's a bunch of shortcut keys on your keyboard. All the old ones are still true. So if you know how to cut, copy, and paste with Control-X, Control-C, Control-V, that's still there. But there are new ones like, I'll just show you one. So if you have some program open, it doesn't matter what. In order to split your screen, you used to have to minimize it and just kind of drag it over to the side. Now if I have a program open, I can hit, and I'll just show you here first. I can hit the Windows button. The Windows button is 2 to the left from the space bar, and left, right, up, down, and I can move that window to whatever part of my screen I want. So all I'm doing right now is I'm holding down the Windows button and moving it left, right, up, down. You can go split screen, quad screen. Anything that's already open can stay there. So once again, any window that I have open, I'm just holding Windows and moving it from one place to the other, up, down, left, right. Everything else, the gazillion other shortcut keys are in that link. Feel free to look at it yourself. Lastly, and this is the last thing, the only big problem I've had with this device is at times it went to sleep and didn't wake up. Now I think for most of you, we've alleviated the problem because it's going to just hibernate and you should be okay. But here are if it doesn't work, here are the levels of what you should try. Your goal is when you hit the power button, you want to see the word Surface so it's turning on. If it doesn't work, hold the power button longer. So 3 seconds or 4 seconds, something like that. If that doesn't work, hold it longer. And usually it's somewhere in the 10 to 12 seconds, but I said it could even be 30. And if something happened, like you were running all these things and your computer just completely froze, the way to get it out of frozen and completely off is to hold the power button and the volume button, the only two buttons at the top at the same time, and hold them for a while. They suggest 60 seconds. It's probably more like 30, but 60 is safe. And what that'll do is completely shut down everything like a hard reset so that you could hit the power button and turn it back on. I'm not expecting that's going to happen very often. In 6 months, it happened to me 2 or 3 times, and that was before I set it up the way that your computers are set up. But that's probably the biggest gripe that people are mentioning about this device. If you want to learn more about how to use your pen, I'm presenting in here in 24 seconds. If you want to learn more about wireless teaching, there's other things with it, but take your things with you. Thank you for your time. If you want to set up facial recognition or other things like that, there's links within the presentation to do that. So, thanks.
Thanks, James.
Dan.
My most important takeaway, I have to have this mastered by, I guess, 20, whatever it is.
Yes.
In order to function in the classroom the way I function.
Right.
This assumes downtime this summer.
Right.
Okay. I'll find it.
I can sense your apprehension.
There's some other mix into the apprehension too, but yeah.
Sure.
This is a challenge.
Yeah. Agreed.
I mean, for what is on
Sure.
the calendar right now.
Sure. Agreed. Yes.
My printer is installing still.
Okay. If it seems like it's spinning, just shut it down, and it probably isn't.
I probably got open twice, I got a couple of those.
Okay.
And then there's power.
And it's probably fine.